Okay, the funny thing is, this morning I had my daily schedule call with Tactical Redneck, and he's like, because you don't want me running the miter saw outside your window when you go live. And I just went live and I just heard the miter saw go. So apparently, the miter saw is going to be going during this session. Welcome to our live recording of the Living Free in Tennessee Friday podcast, which is Homestead Happenings for today. That's where we talk about everything that's gone on the homestead in the last week. And we will be doing this live recording for the audio podcast. So I try to do my best to make it work for those on audio as well as video. And if you have questions along the way, please put the first couple of words in all caps, because then I can see that you intend for me to respond to it and you aren't just bantering back and forth with one another. I'll store those and I'll add them to my Q&A show. So the way this goes down is I do a 5-second pause. Thank you. I look pretty today. I put my makeups on, even though my face looks like that, if you saw that video. But yeah, anyway, please so we'll do 5-second pause, then we'll start the podcast. I'll go through the Homestead Happenings update. If one of your questions manages to make it into that, I will do it there. If not, 5-second pause at the end, and then we go straight into the Q&A show. For the Q&A show, I do invite the Holler Neighbors on. And in fact, I don't think Tactical Redneck has the link yet. So I'm going to really quickly go over here and send that to him. I've already sent it to other Holler Neighbors. And Jenny, I see that you were on today. So if you look at your Telegram, you will see the link as well if you're available to hop on later. Also, if anybody who looks like me and uses my logo and all my imagery asks you to go off in a private chat group, don't do it. It's not me. I mean, just know it's not me if you do it. And if they ask you for money, it's double not me. In fact, last year I did raise money for something mysterious, and I did put it out on our Telegram group as me, and somebody emailed me and said, was that really you? And I was like, yeah, that actually was really me. So, that was done publicly. That was not like, hey, go to this private room. And I'm not going to ever do it that way again, because I realized that that's what the scammers do. So that is what it is. I'll probably just talk about things on the podcast if that's the way it's going to be. Anyway, today's going to be a Homestead Happenings update. With that, I'm going to jump straight into it. We'll do the 5-second pause, start the podcast, and then go from there. So here we go. Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, December 9th, 2022, and this is episode 667 of Living Free in Tennessee. It's a Friday, so it's a homestead update day. We usually do these at 9:30 in the morning. I'm doing it at 2 in the afternoon because I have had a whole bunch of dental work done this week. And I had an appointment scheduled this morning during our live stream that actually I didn't have to go to because they moved me earlier in the week. I did have to go to the dentist 2 times, and I've been talking like that for like half days this week. So I have a little less audio content recorded as a result, because I did not sound like I was pronouncing my words right. So I kind of had to put some things off. But we're back on the train today at 2, and I scheduled this here to make sure that we have the podcast with me actually able to pronounce words with all of my facial muscles not being numb. Today, we're going to talk about a few things. 1, new lives on the homestead in the winter. 2, pregnant sheep who have, well, we'll talk about what's up with that later today. Mud season number 3, as well as an update on the portable sheep shelter and other things going on the homestead in the last week. I am happy to report that we finally got rain. And this time of year, with the amount of rain we got this week, Tactical would usually be bitching about it, but he's not. You know why? Because we didn't get rain all dang summer long. And so he's like, I'm still not ready to complain about rain. Like every time I'm like, it's really raining this time, he's like, I'm still not going to complain about it. So it's amazing how you get perspective on things like this. And what a blessing it is to have water just fall for free from the sky. It's great. Anyway, before we jump into the show, I want to thank today's sponsor, and that is freesteading.com. Freesteading.com is an online community of homesteaders, preppers, and anybody else who's interested in talking about things without censorship. You can sign up over at freesteading.com. And if you do, be sure to join the Living Free in Tennessee community. I'm really liking it. I have a forum started there, and I ask a couple questions a week, and people go back and forth. The latest question on the forum is, do you do Christmas simply, or do you go all out for Christmas? Like, share with us what you do for your Christmas celebration. And we've had a lot of people on, different perspectives talking about how they build the Christmas into their holiday season. This year, I'm doing all handmade ornaments on my tree. And I have been doing the ones I talked about on Monday on the Gift Ideas show, which are the Scandinavian wood shaving ornaments. And I'm not very good at it, but I'm not terrible at it. So I've made 2 so far, and I will put some pictures of those out as we go. They're hanging on my tree right now. I'm still kind of playing with what shapes I can make. It's really been a fun little experiment because I usually do handmade ornaments of some kind, but this is my first time with this kind, and it kind of taps into my background of basket weaving and bringing some of those skills into the ornaments. So it's kind of a fun little thing. Anyway, lots of people do lots of different things over Christmas holiday, and I've been enjoying the talks back and forth about what people are doing. I even tried to upload a picture of my ornament today, but I'm gonna have to try it again from my computer browser, because the phone app works a little differently than the web app does for freestudying.com. And that said, there is a phone app out. It's new. So guys, if you download it and you're like, this is not perfect. Of course it's not perfect. It's a brand new phone app. Like, stuff comes up. You know how that works, right? Give them some grace. Check on the community over there. I love it. And thank you, freestudying.com, for sponsoring today's show. The other thing I want to say before we jump into the day's content is I have a surprise live stream at 5 p.m. Central today with Sue. You guys know who Sue is, right? Yeah, Sue Zoldak from the Zoldak Agency. She's been on the show a few times, and she reached out today and said, hey, we should go live. And I haven't gone live in a while. And I was like, well, as it turns out, I don't have an interview show recorded for Sunday, and I'm singing the Messiah with my choir on Sunday. So what I would usually have done is just sit down with somebody from the Holler, but it's not going to really fit now. It's like, so perfect timing. Sue's been working on an alternative email platform to MailChimp. She launched a freedom-oriented tech e-newsletter this year, and she has just moved to New York City. That's right. She's a city gal, because that's the life she wants. So we're going to talk about lifestyle design, technology, probably some marketing stuff, definitely that email platform, and a whole bunch of other stuff at 5 p.m. today. The link is in the show notes of this show to that. If not, if you don't find it there, just go to Living Free in Tennessee on YouTube. That's at LFTN. Yes, I got at LFTN on YouTube. Wah. And at 5 p.m. we'll be live there, of course. I'll put it out on the social networks as well. With that, it's time to go straight into our first segment, and that is Forage. This is where we talk about what's coming off the land on the homestead. Now, a lot of places in the country, when it gets really cold, you have less coming off the land. Sometimes you have nothing coming off the land except for meat. And that's not necessarily true of Tennessee in winter. And part of that is that we're at a transition point between north and south, where the south kind of stays warmer and we get stuff pushing up from the Gulf, or it gets colder because we have stuff pushing down from the north. So it just all depends on what the year is. And this year we had an early freeze, earlier than usual, but not out of our scope, right? And now it's in the 60s, bordering on 70 degrees during the day, and rainy. And so we're having a resurgence of things that I would have normally gotten into the fall. I have not gone mushroom hunting this week, and I really should, because we've had the perfect pattern for oyster mushrooms to show up, and it's the right time of year for oyster mushrooms, for example. I haven't seen them in any of my easy to get to spots yet, but they might show up there. I'm hoping that I get oyster mushrooms. But I am getting lettuce from the aquaponics system. So I managed to using plastic covering, keep the lettuce alive through the freeze. Plus the water that's flowing through the aquaponics system is warmer. So you extend the season a little bit with that system. And we are getting lettuces coming off of that. We're getting 1 or 2 salads for 3 people a week right now off of what's coming in the aquaponics system. And we also are planting our celery hearts in there. I have celery hearts in there that I've been planting on and off all year. Some of them didn't like the heat of the summer and died, but I have 2 that are going strong. When you take the hearts of your celery from the store and put it in a flow and flush bed, it will root and it will start putting out more celery. It does not look like those tight celery stalks you get from the store, though. It kind of branches out and they're darker green, which I think means good because they're healthier. And then they have, you know, they're not as long usually. And I don't know, they taste like celery. They're delicious. And we've been sort of integrating those into our salads and stews and different things as long as they stay alive. The lemongrass is looking a little peaked. I'm not sure it's going to make it. So we'll see. If not, I'll have to get yet another lemongrass plant in the spring and hope I can actually get it more established before we go into the cold. The banana tree looks like crap. I actually had a basket around it all the way filled with leaves, and I'm looking up at it from here, and it's dropped. So it's dropped by a third. So there's like, it was full a third, and then 2/3 are where the leaves are. So I think I need to get more leaves or mulch of some sort in there, hopes of overwintering that, because I haven't overwintered a banana in a long time. So we will see what happens. Jen says, don't cut your celery though. Pull off what you're going to eat. I'm sure there's a reason why. She'll tell us in a second in the comments. Okay. The other thing that's happening is I have a red sorrel, which develops a pretty big taproot like burdock, and it's a lemony flavored green. Does not love the heat, but will make it through the heat and will make it through the cold. I have it in a pot because once you have this established, it like establishes itself. I should put some in my food forest as ground cover, but it's coming back right now in the pots. I've dragged the pot out from under Taj Mahaler, so it just gets natural rainfall, right? And that's, I would say in another week, I'm going to be able to pick those leaves off and integrate them into salads. If I manage to keep the lettuce alive another week, it'll be like 2 kinds of greens in the salad. That'll be kind of cool. Ground nuts can be dug right now, and I'm going to dig mine up and separate them and replant them and drag that pot also out into the rain so that it can get natural water from the sky for free. And then the watercress patch died back. And the reason it died back is it went below freezing and it burned them a little bit. And that's okay, because now it's been warm for about a week from the last freeze, and we're starting to get, once again, a resurgence of watercress. Now, I'm not used to getting watercress this late in the year. It doesn't usually happen, but it's happening, so I'm going with it. And that's just because of how the weather pattern has been here. Once it gets cold and is sort of consistently going below freezing, we will have, you know, back to the watercress has pulled itself underwater and we're not getting watercress. So usually right before that happens, I go out and I cut a bunch and I dice it up and I put it in little packages in the freezer for my stews. I'm not doing that this year. The reason I'm not doing that is I have a lot of Swiss chard and beet greens in the freezer already for winter stews, and I just don't need more. I even have some freeze dried. Like I can just take it straight out of a jar and go shaky, shaky, shaky because it's freeze dried. As long as you don't crumble it up, it doesn't turn to powder and it will reconstitute just fine in a stew. So that's the forage for the week. Next segment is livestock. This is what's going on with our animals on the homestead. And the reason you're watching the show is this, right? The reason you're watching the show is this. We have babies. Yay! Is it little lambs? No! I've been talking about birth watch on these sheep, and we still don't have any lambs, but they're definitely pregnant. And there's definitely a well-developed udder under one of the ladies. The other one has like a semi-developed udder. So I think I overreacted about calling the udder development. It changed, but I don't think it was really milk drop. I think it was a little bit of getting ready to do milk drop. I don't know. It's been like 2 weeks since I saw that. And now it's starting to look like for real an udder. And this is just what happens when you have animals for the first time or the first cycle through birth giving. Is you read all about it, you look at other people's animals, you think you know what's going on, and then you have your animals, and then you go through the process one time, and then you finally get babies. Well, we don't have little lambs yet. And if we do, we'll probably have to do a Mary Had a Little Lamb video. But what we do have are baby rabbits. So today, the rabbits were bred while I was at Jack's Beer Co. So it was about 4 weeks ago. And Tactical couldn't remember the exact day he did it, so I put it on the earlier side. So I was like, okay, anytime after Tuesday, we might get rabbits. We put the nesting boxes out, and as of yesterday, no rabbits. And I was like, have they started ripping their fur out? No. I'm like, okay, whatever. Maybe they're not pregnant. And I didn't make the time yesterday to go feel and see if the ladies were lumpy. Well, Tactical texted me this morning, and he said 2 rabbits gave birth. 1 batch is alive. This is the first time these rabbits have given birth. It's their first litter. And often what happens with rabbits on their first litter is it's like, wait, what's that? Oops. Like they instinctually rip their fur out and try to make a nest. But what happened is one of them didn't make a nest in the nesting box. It just kind of ripped its hair out, gave birth, and they froze. Like they just got too cold. Not froze like frozen, but the bunnies were too cold and they died, the little babies. And the other one was a little bit smarter, and she made her nest in the actual nesting box. And Tactical said he looked in there and he saw like there's a little nest with straw and it was moving. And that means that the little bunnies are in there. Now, we haven't opened it up to see how many there are. We're not going to anytime soon. Give them about a week to get used to what's going on and hope that the mom instinct to feed them twice a day is also strong enough to keep them alive. At this point, we're like, okay, hands off, let them like get into their zone and then see what happens. So right now, Tracy, if you come and see them, you'll just see the straw moving from time to time. You can't really see the babies. By next week, I think we'll be seeing the babies. And the other thing we need to watch out for is if it gets super cold. Right now, they're not protected enough from the cold. So we something I learned from one of my listeners is rabbits only feed a couple of times a day, even when they're super little babies. And so you can bring them in at night and put them back out for the mom to feed in the daytime. But keeping them warm is very important. And right now, their vulnerability is from underneath the cage because their nesting box has like, instead of a solid bottom, it has mesh. And so air can get up. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Tactical said it's not supposed to freeze until next week. So by that time, they may be a little older, a little bit more durable, and we may be able to fuss around in there and change how they are set up a little bit in the rabbit cage so that they're less vulnerable to the cold. Because really our biggest issue now is 2 things. Mom needs to feed them, and they need to not get too cold until their bodies are developing enough heat to keep themselves warm themselves. Okay, we are also pairing off the other ewe with a ram, and it's been going on for 2 weeks now, and they have not done a very good job of doing what they need to do to make baby sheep, so she runs away. So we'll see how that goes, continuing to observe that situation, but I'm pretty sure no pregnancy-inducing activity has happened with the ram and the ewe. I really do want these 2 to pair up, so I'm hoping they will figure things out. They looked like they were going to figure it out last week, and then they lost interest again. So it could mean that she's not in heat. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on that and look for signs of her going into heat. We still have not clipped the muscovy wings. So the muscovy ducks went through the molt and they've regrown their feathers, and muscovies can actually fly. So we need to reclip the wings. And Tracy says Lady Pig is also playing hard to get. Okay, well, I mean, she's not ready yet. I have seen those 2 figure it out. So hopefully they can figure it out. Anyway, so we need to clip their wings so they can't fly away because it's dangerous for them to fly too far off property and then get hit by predators. We have 3 female muscovies and 1 male. And I noticed one of the muscovies was not hanging out with the other muscovies. And then I looked closer at that muscovy, and it sure looks like I have 2 males and 2 females. Yeah, so they were younger, and sometimes people misidentify what kind of duck they are. So I actually have 2 male muscovies and 2 female muscovies, and our goal is that they reproduce. It's the wrong time of year for them to reproduce, but we want them to reproduce so that we have more muscovies, and then we'll eat the males. And once they reproduce, and I feel like we have a good cycle going, I will probably harvest one of the 2 males that we now have. We will see. It depends on when they reproduce, if they reproduce enough females. I actually want more female muscovies on the property. Worst comes to worst, I'll just go get, more. But right now, muscovies are not cheap. So I'm a little sad that one of them was misgendered, but that happens sometimes with ducks, especially when they're younger. The LGDs are doing really well. They are sitting when I tell them to sit consistently. That took about a week. And it was harder with the more dominant one than the other one. So, but the more dominant one got it. And he comes when I call. The less dominant one doesn't always come when I call. And I notice he's a little scared of coming to people. I want these dogs to come when I call, to sit when I say sit, to be able to walk on a leash, and to get in my car when I need them in my car. And that may seem counter to training a farm animal, but sometimes you need to take your farm animal to the vet. And I'm going to need to take my farm animals to the vet because I have not found a dog vet that will come out to the farm animals. And I do want to keep them up to date on rabies, which they are right now. Flea medications, because the fleas and ticks in Tennessee are insane. And if ever they need to get, something done, I want to be able to do that. So we've been sort of walking a fine line of, we need you to be vicious and kill coyotes, but I also occasionally need you to behave like I want you to, and didn't really start working on that till a week ago. I will also admit that the last 3 days of pouring down rain, I have been a big wussy and I have not gone out there and trained them. And so I'm going to have to do, my goal is at least 5 out of 7 days a week. So I'm going to need to get my butt out there and continue training them, because they're responding pretty well to that consistency as well. I've noticed we need to trim the hooves of the sheep. I have been putting that off because it's been raining, and to do it, I need to put them on their backs, and I don't really want to rub them in the mud, but that might need to happen because the problem is there's mud and that'll get caught up in their hooves. And then that can lead to health issues if they don't ever dry out, right? It's like having diaper rash on your hand because it's always wet. You wouldn't want that either. So gonna have to figure out how to get that done. And then conserving hay as best we can. Tactical just had the male sheep in a paddock that was mostly woods, so it didn't have as much forage, especially at this time of year. Like in the middle of the summer, there's a lot of underbrush they can eat, but right now, not so much. And so he was needing to augment their forage with hay. Well, we have like 42 bales of hay that we bought, plus another 10 or 15 that were left from the first round of hay we bought for the winter. And then if that looks like it's getting low, we're going to have to titrate them onto a different type of hay, because I don't imagine that finding Timothy hay at this point is very easy. So we're trying to be careful about using that hay, but we need to keep them healthy and well fed, and it's colder, so they're going to eat more. Like, we've got that whole thing going on. And so he's been, rather than doing sort of a linear rotation, he's been scoping out what has the most forage over there, and he just moved them to a much grassier area. And as a result, hopefully they won't need hay this week. We are giving hay to the ones at my house because about 30% of my property was disrupted as part of all the projects we worked on this year. And they hadn't really recovered from the winter project of putting in this retaining wall here. So it's not growing as much grass as usual, not just because of the lack of rain this summer, but also because heavy equipment drove on it, and that caused the grass to be torn up, right? So it's harder for ground to recover from that than if you just mow or something, or if it's just dry. Anyway, so that's part of what's going on with the hay. The chicken, there is one chicken on my property left. I've been phasing out chickens. I want to build a coop in the lower pasture that opens 2 directions and do more of the victory garden approach down there. We have not built that coop yet. I've talked to my neighbor, who's pretty good at building cute looking coops, about what it would take to put a coop there. We haven't really sat down and discussed it, nor have I prioritized that, because it's coffee roasting season, because Christmas gifts must be shipped when they're ordered, right? So anyway, that means we have one chicken and not a small flock of chickens. And she went into the mulch when the ducks went in the mulch, stopped laying eggs. She's like 5 years old at this point, and we got 3 eggs out of her this week. So she's laying again. The ducks are still fired. The ducks are still not laying, and they really should be starting to lay eggs again. Then one of our cats, Mortimer, who is one of our accomplished mousers, he's also the black cat that everybody likes to snuggle with when they come here, he ripped his dew claw. So it's got this big, I don't know how he cut it, but it's cut to crap. And right now it's not infected. So the poor guy is going to have his paw put in warm water to kind of keep it open. And we're using topical antibiotics like the Neosporin on it. And hopefully it will heal itself without a trip to the vet. The next segment is harvest meals. This is where we talk about what we're cooking from what we put up, right? Or what's available. And the first thing is I talked about the cow last week, and the new cow is in and the old cow isn't quite gone. And so there has been a great shifting of things. And I found 2 briskets from last year's cow that the seal had broken on the bag that they were in. So I pulled those out, and usually I smoke the brisket. I'll start it at noon and it comes out of the smoker at 6 or 7 o'clock. Because of the scale of rain, I didn't really want to run my smoker. I was afraid, like, if the electricity goes out or blinks, which can happen when we have this kind of weather, then the smoker resets itself. I don't realize it's not cooking, and it comes dinner time. We don't have brisket. I'm also out of wood chips for it, which means I either have to go make wood chips for my hickory, go into the forest and pull some shag bark off the shag bark hickory, or buy wood chips. Well, it's not exactly 'tis the season to buy smoker wood chips. And it's my smoker takes like bark this size pieces. If I had a wood chipper here, which I totally sold one 2 years ago and I'm starting to regret it, I could have put some of my fruit wood through that and made wood chips and used those. But that seems like a lot of work when you also have, 6 to 8 hours of roasting to do in the roastery. So I decided instead to commit the cardinal sin of roasting a brisket without smoke, which we did. We put the brisket, I had 2 of them. I put them in one tray after doing a dry rub on them, cooked them at 325 for a few hours, covered, and then uncovered them and cooked them for another hour or so. And it was still delicious. I'm just going to say, smoked brisket is great. Not smoked brisket, also great. So that used that up. And then I have right now a venison bone-in roast from last year's deer that Mom cut up. And it's a fairly big roast. It didn't quite fit in the crock pot. So once the joint has gotten softer, I'm going to be able to fold it. So it's in there, and I'm not sure how I'm going to spice it. So I'll throw an onion in after this. So you can totally start things in the crock pot, guys, without any spices and let it go for a couple hours and then add the spices. And for me, that gets the job done. And sometimes I'm behind and don't want to take the 30 seconds it's going to take to cut the onion to put it in there. So I'll be adding celery and onions to it. And I usually do like cumin, garlic, onion, rosemary, but we just did that. So I'm still deciding what flavors I want to add to it. And I might actually curry it. I might go with Indian style curry spice, because I think that would be pretty good. And then I usually augment that with hot peppers and garlic. That's not going to be ready for dinner tonight. It'll be ready tomorrow because the roast is that big and I didn't start it till this afternoon cooking. So it'll be ready in the morning. That means I had to do a quick meal tonight. A quick meal is something I didn't get up in the morning and say, I'm going to cook that. Here's the slow cooker. Or here's my plan for cooking it or whatever. Instead, I went to the freezer and grabbed 3 packages of ground lamb and put them out to defrost. And I will brown this up with garlic and onions. And from there, I will add... make gravy out of it. Basically, I won't use a flour to thicken it, but I will kind of add some bone broth to it and kind of mix it with that. Then I'll put it in the bottom of one of my baking trays and layer on peas and carrots, mashed potatoes, cheese, and it's shepherd's pie. I usually actually put the cheese before the mashed potatoes because then it just kind of bakes in. Doesn't look like Nighthawk's coming to dinner, so we can add cheese to that. So I'm doing a quick shepherd's pie. I'm going to have to ask for help on it, though, because we're doing that other live stream today, and that's right in the middle of when I'd be making the shepherd's pie. So mom's going to have to make the mashed potatoes probably. She doesn't know this yet unless she's listening to this. Jen says coriander, cinnamon, cumin, and clove on the venison. Yeah, that'd be pretty good. That would be pretty good. Lamb burgers. Lamb burgers would have been fun too. But we are doing a lamb shepherd's pie. And in order to get that done, speaking of Holler Neighbors and community, I have to go next door and get canned carrots out of Nighthawk stores because I don't have any carrots right now. Is what it is. And that's like the one place I can get away with using canned carrots instead of wanting fresh ones. Although fresh ones are better. We're going to use what we have. And we could actually make it without the carrots, but I like it better with a little bit of carrot. Obviously, this is not a low carb meal. I'm not exactly sticking to keto on that one, but it's not bad. You just, if you want to make it lower carb, you put a much smaller layer of mashed potatoes and other things and a bigger layer of delicious lamb spiced with garlic and onions and salt, a little bit of cumin. Okay. Next segment is winter on the homestead. This is where we talk about wintry things happening on the homestead. So the grass is growing. Remember how I talked all summer long about no grass growing? Finally, the grass is growing. We did distribute a lot of seed, probably 100 pounds of different kinds of seeds of different things for pasture after the food forest class happened because everything was so ripped up. And there were some thin areas, and Tactical has been spreading seed out there as well. It's germinated. It's coming back in. It's actually to the point where I think if we get a light frost, it won't be a problem. And that's pretty cool. I'm actually pretty excited about that. That also means that it helps us extend the need for hay with the sheep. And Strong Roots Resources says we're growing grass better now than any time over the summer. Yeah, we are too. It was not a good summer for grass growing. That I grew some pretty tall weeds, but not grass. And then Tactical's working on improving the animal water antifreeze systems, which were in last year and then kind of got taken out this summer. And as he did that, I think he's re-envisioning how to have it sort of longer term set up so it's not a big pain in the neck to like move a stock tank heater or any of these things. And he had a really great setup for the rabbits where they're gravity fed with water in a bucket on top of their cages. It goes through tubes and they have little nipples that they drink from. And he had heat tape on that so that when it went below freezing, he could just turn it on. I don't know if he had a sensor on it for if it's below 36 degrees, it turns on, but that worked great. There's one problem with this system. Rabbits have teeth. And apparently in one little spot, the heat tape was sticking out a little bit. And the rabbits over the summer decided that would be really interesting to chew on. So he needs to put new heat tape on that. And he's also doing other things like moving where the goat water is and other things to make it easier for us to keep it from freezing as best we can. Of course, one of the methods we use for keeping water from freezing is breaking it with an axe when it's really cold and we can't get electricity or a stock tank heater to that. Wow, something weird just happened. Am I still live? Okay, cool. My whole computer went blue. It like gave me lightning. It was weird. And then I was worried. Okay. So that's happening, and because it's in the 60s and low 70s right now, we're a little less worried about it, but it's actually kind of nice when it's in the 60s and low 70s to be working on this versus when it's 15 degrees outside and you have to be bundled extra high. With the nice warm spell right now, if we get a dry enough day, I have 2 more garden beds to put to bed for the winter. I live streamed last Sunday over 2 hours of time that was put in to plant the garlic, to prepare the garlic beds and plant the garlic. And part of that is just winter bed preparation. And I mulched with a bunch of leaves. Well, I've got 2 more beds that just need to be put to bed for the winter. And the way I'm doing that is I pull off any weeds or extra plant. Like when you have rows of beans or whatever, they die and then you pull all that out. Or you can actually, if it's not a weedy thing, I won't pull it out. I'll just flop it over. But if it's perilla, I rip it out and try to carefully carry it out of my garden without dropping seeds. And there is some perilla in there. And I know what dead perilla looks like because perilla is my nemesis weed. Mint family. Anyway, once that's done, I will put a layer of rabbit poop down, which we have plenty of at this time. And we're about to be producing more if the babies do well. And then I will mulch it in with leaves or wood chips, whatever I can get my hands on. I have one bale of wood chips I can use, and I have one bag of leaves. And if I run around with a rake, I might be able to get enough more leaves to get a good 4 to 6 inch layer of mulch. That's what I want. I did prioritize using the leaves where the garlic is because I think because it's more important. Basically, it's keeping them from dying over the winter. Or they wouldn't die over the winter without it here, but they will be warmer and they will do a better job of developing nice big bulbs if I keep them well mulched. So we did prioritize that one, but I do want the beds put to sleep. And then the bed we made with Mary over the summer is looking great. It needs another layer of wood chips on it because wind has blown stuff off, and I have cardboard on that one because the weeds were so bad up there. So I want that cardboard to break down this winter and turn into something I could dig through. And right now it's like poking up and getting exposed and drying, and then it becomes hydrophobic. And y'all know how I feel about hydrophobic things. So I would like to get another layer of wood chips on that. Hopefully I can get a truck to use to go to Wood Chip Mecca and put a bunch of wood chips in the back of it, because I do know where I can hand scoop wood chips. I just haven't had, the electric company decided to stop trimming trees since 2020. So we haven't had the usual influx of giant dump trucks of wood chips from the tree trimmers, which makes me just a little sad. It makes me just a little sad. Okay, the last thing is that Tactical asked me to mention over Black Friday, there was a great sale at, I think it was called 32 Degrees or something, and he was able to restock on winter clothing. Why is that a homestead winter thing? Because when you live on a homestead, you are outside in the winter, and that means that you get wet and cold and wind and all these other things. And while you're out there, if it's like it is right now, you get muddy, and then you get mud all over your winter clothes, and then they're gross, and then you need to wash them, and then they need to dry, and you can't just dry them in the dryer. You just want to hang dry them. And luckily I have a wood stove, so when you hang dry things, it happens quickly, but not quickly enough. So it's actually kind of nice to have 2 or 3 sets of things that you can go outside in that will keep you warm. And I think he finally got his 3rd set of, all the outerwear that he can put on when it's outside. And over Black Friday, they were having a great sale. I got a down jacket for $32. And if you see me in my new purple down jacket, that's the one. My only complaint with this jacket is the zipper is backwards. The zipper goes the wrong way. And I don't think it's a male-female thing. Like every jacket I've had, it's like the right goes into the left, and this one is left to right. It's very weird. Maybe that's why it was $32. I can't complain though, because it's a warm, actual goose down jacket, and that's kind of nice. I am not wearing that on the farm at this time. I'm wearing my other down jacket on the farm because it's older and has more personality from being older. So I do tend to reserve newer things like that jacket or pants for off homestead use. I do that with shoes too. I have off homestead shoes and on homestead shoes. And occasionally I accidentally wear my on homestead shoes off homestead and they look terrible. And somebody's like, "You're wearing your farm shoes, Nicole." And I'm like, "You are absolutely right. Those are not supposed to be here," but it's okay. I have usually pretty good about the separation of what gets worn on homestead versus off homestead. And that's actually a really good way to organize things, because then you don't ruin your off homestead stuff when you just decided to take a walk outside and you don't really need to put your on homestead clothes on because you're just going to take a stroll around, get some fresh air, reset your mind, and come back and record your podcast. And you get out there and there's a sheep giving birth, and all of a sudden you're getting that all over your nice clothes. Just, random weird homestead tip from Nicole Sauce for your day. Next segment is Holler Neighbors and Community. We had a great time for game night. Steve and Tracy brought over different versions of Uno, and we giggled a lot. It was fun. I'm looking forward to doing more of those while we have people in the holler who will play games. And I'm kind of looking at my game collection with side eye, deciding what else we can do. We might have to bring out, guys, the deck of playing cards. We will see. We will see. And then I believe we have animal care. So this weekend, Saturday is dedicated to dress rehearsal, and Sunday is dedicated to performing the Messiah and Christmas carols with my choir, which is Cookeville Master Singers, mastersingersinc.com. If you are interested in looking at the actual information, want to come to the concert, it's at Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville, Sunday at 3 p.m. But that actually puts me at a concert when it's time to do animals. And because other Holler Neighbors are coming, we had to figure out which Holler Neighbors were not coming. So some of the Holler Neighbors are not coming, and they're going to be doing animal care so that the rest of us can leave. And that's actually a super helpful thing to have, because in former years, what needed to happen was animals were put to bed at 1 p.m, or somebody had to rush home from the concert. It was already dark. The animals were like, WTF, where's our food? And, the sunset, and we haven't eaten yet or whatever. And it was not ideal, because especially with the poultry, that's when a predator might actually get them, is when that happens. It's actually really cool to have Holler Neighbors nearby who can do animal fill-in for my concert. Next segment is infrastructure. This is where we just talk about what we're building on the homestead. And it feels like almost always is something being built. And if you follow me on any of the social medias, I put a little video up where I sang a little song, because I walked out my door and there was the temporary sheep shelter, the movable sheep shelter that Tactical is making to go at the property next door to shelter the boys, because it's the other things we have tried have not worked very well. And luckily we haven't had like ice storms or anything horrible, but eventually that's going to happen. So it's better to have a shelter now than to have a shelter never. And the backup plan is we got to move them down to the barn, and that's not ideal, but it could happen. That's at least that backup is there. But I walked out and he had built the sheep shelter, and in typical style of the homestead had used whatever random roofing we have here to side it and roof it. And what it is it's on skids. It's a little like box that's shorter than I am, but taller than sheep. And it has sides and a top, and one end is covered with metal. And then the front, they can walk in and out the front, and it can move with them. I think long-term, we'd like to just have some little shelters scattered around where they're rotating, and make it so we can just, kind of turn it based on where the pasture is. But there's a certain amount of, we don't want them encountering their own poop for too long, because that's how we get parasites, and we don't like parasites in our sheep. So I sang a little song because it was red and green. And the reason it was red and green is I have green roofing and I have red roofing here. And it ended up being a red and green little thing, and Christmas is coming. So of course I sang a little Christmas carol, and I put this video up, and I'm holding my phone like, landscape. But the video loads portrait, and I don't know why, because usually when I'm holding my phone's landscape, the little thing inside that senses which way the phone is knows, but it did not know when I recorded this. So I upload, I don't know, a 10-second video of me singing a song that's, what was the song I was singing? I was like, Christmas, Christmas time is here. Red and green bring sheep good cheer. Okay, that's what I sang. That's the length of the video, guys. Like, you've now heard it on the podcast. And the shelter, instead of looking like it should, like it's it's sideways, because the stupid video went the wrong way, and I uploaded it, and I'm like, whatever. I hit publish. I wrote blah 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 sheep shelter, and you know what happened? Okay, my average YouTube video viewage is 200 to 300 per whatever I do here. I have just under 3,000 followers. I need 200 more followers to get to 3,000. So if you want to help me get there, tell your friends to come follow my channel, by the way. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. That'll help me get that. And then, of course, hit the bell button and, follow me and hang out and interact and all that good stuff. Anyway, I'm at 2,000 freaking views on that thing. On that 10-second stupid video that's crappy and stuff. Like, None of the editing things no thumbnail, like no effort put in at all. I just uploaded a random stupid video about the sheep shelter and it's at 2,000 views. Now I'm happy about that, but it's hilarious because I'm like, I just got to stop trying, man. Like, why do I try? Because when I don't try, I get 2,000 views. And I was just doing a stupid thing on my way out the door. When I do try, like sometimes I'll only get 100 things. It's an actual informative video that shows you how to do something. I can't really complain, but it was pretty funny to me that happened. So that's there. And then, of course, people in the comments said, hey, can you give us a tour of the sheep shelter? And the answer is maybe, because we're having a saga with it where he built the sheep shelter and he went to bring it up the hill and the lumber like came detached and he was pissed. And he's like, I guess I need longer screws. So he put longer screws in and they detached. And then he like looked at the dog shelter that he made that's a very similar design. And he looked at the sheep shelter and he's like, the lumber's different. And the lumber is not as good, and the screws aren't holding. And the thing is, it's divided with one. It's built with 1x4s because then it's not as heavy. But the problem is the 1x4s aren't holding when he drags it on the skids. So I don't know what he's going to do to solve that. He's really pissed off about the lumber. I think there's going to be a bonfire later, with some lumber that's not working very well, and we will see what happens. But I will give a tour of it eventually. I'll probably show where it's broken. If it's still broken this weekend, I will show where it's broken and how that was a big bummer. And now I don't know if he's going to rebuild the whole thing from scratch and use the same roofing material, or if he's going to just repair the areas or shore up the areas where he thinks he needs to. But the cool thing about the shelter is it can be moved around, but it's heavy enough it's not likely to be blown away. And it's on skids, so we can drag it with a four-wheeler. The thing we tried before was an easy up that lasted about 2 weeks, and I'll talk about that under finances. I wanted to give an update on the fencing workshop. We've had quite a bit of interest in doing a fencing workshop, and my next step is to figure out when and how we do it. Because if we do it in winter here in say February, which would be great, January or February, it could be like this. It could be 60 to 70 degrees outside, or it could be like 15 degrees and icy. And if we schedule it and it's icy, we're totally going to cancel it because we don't want to hang out in the snow trying to do fencing with frozen ground. So I'm wondering if we need to do sort of a rolling thing where it's like this Saturday, and if not the following Saturday, and if not the following Saturday, or choose 3 dates. Not sure how to best do that. I am working with Tactical on the outline because we're going to talk about how to stretch woven wire, how to properly sink posts. We're going to talk about how to put in electric fencing and the grounding related to that. And we're going to show you how to do it in these ways. And of course, you can take the woven wire thing and apply it to welded wire if you do that. We're not going to be doing the high tensile wire install, but we will show you electric fencing. The grounding part is what a lot of people really want to see on electrical fencing. And I'm working with Tactical to make it so that it is just 1 day and not 2 days. And that means we're going through the outline and kind of looking like, how do we present this in the best way? How do we do the hands-on piece in some very specific, like not just random put a fence over there, but like specifically prepared areas so it can happen efficiently and people can get some hands-on experience in doing the fencing. And leave enough room for Q&A. So it will probably be a 1-day thing. I'm not sure if we're going to have overnight or not for that. I'll probably say, yes, you can camp on the property. But if it's February, I'm not sure how many people want to camp on the property. I will say this. I did a hog workshop with Cider Hollow Farm, and people, I'd say 3 or 4 people did, in fact, come out with their hammocks and all of their warm gear and slept over on a 15-degree night and were snug as bugs in rugs, as I recall. But I stayed in an Airbnb at that one because I'm a wimp. I'm a total wimp. It was great. So we'll be doing that. We'll be thinking about February or January or when the best time is to do that, and then see who wants to sign up for it. We got the electrical redone for the water redo and the shed, and the outlets aren't working, and Tactical doesn't know why, and I haven't looked at it. So we will see. I'm wondering if there's a second wire somewhere. but there was only one wire. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. And then he's cleaning out the workshop. I have a workshop building that has been cleaned out multiple times, and anybody who's been here has seen it. Anybody who's been involved with the cleaning out of the workshop, pretty much from the time that we got an influx of tactical things when he came out of the military, it has not been tidy since then. And part of cleaning out the workshop is I need to go down there and just throw a bunch of stuff away. And that's totally going to happen later this winter after coffee Christmas rush is done. That is one of my top priorities this winter. And it's kind of cool. The only thing is I think we need to work on the chimney again. I have a wood stove down there that's like a barrel wood stove. We need to redo the chimney, but then you can like light the fire and it's kind of warm and just work in there in the winter. It's kind of nice. It's actually way better than in the heat of the summer. So that's on the list. Next segment and the last segment for today's show is finances. This is where we just talk about financial impact of what we're doing on the homestead. And if any Holler neighbors are going to join the live, about now is when you should be logging in, because I'm going to be talking for 3 more minutes and then we're going to end this and go into the Q&A show. Finances. So that Easy Up shelter lasted 2 weeks and cost $50. The lumber that's not strong enough, I don't even know how much it cost, but it cost money. And now some of these can be returned that were not used yet, that were going to be used for the rabbit tractor. But that means that we're out the money on the materials for the stupid sheep shelter that have to be replaced. And, I wanted to bring it up because what can happen, don't let this give you analysis paralysis, but what can happen on the homestead is you spend money on supplies, you get the supplies and they're crap. And it seems like in the last 2 or 3 years, the quality of things have gone way down. And so things that you formerly were okay with are crap. And then you waste the money and it's really frustrating. So Tactical is super frustrated right now because he probably spent $500 this week or maybe more on things that don't work. And now that's basically just a little bit more than 1 lamb's worth of income just went out the door because of stuff not being high enough quality. But if you never get started and don't order the stuff or get the stuff that you need, you do end up with a different problem, and that's animals dying or plants dying because you didn't get your infrastructure in because you were in analysis paralysis. I am looking forward to the video that Tactical does on fence posts and reels and fencing that he's learned in this first 6 months of having the sheep, because he's tested a lot of different things and I think it will help shortcut that for you. And I'm going to keep you guys apprised of some things that are happening video wise as we go into 2023 that will be a little bit more focused on specific areas of interest, from cooking to homesteading, that sort of thing. So that's just something I wanted to bring up under finances. We of course didn't sell anything, so there was no income. So money went out the door. Money didn't come in the door. Boo. But at least I didn't have to buy lettuce because lettuce is coming off the homestead, right? With that, if you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. One, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. It's Christmas roasting season, so that'll go straight into our Christmas roasting season batch. And the other way you can support the show is to become a member. If you want to find out more about that, head on over to livingfreeintennessee.com, click on membership and sign up. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week. Alrighty, it's time for the variety show for 12/10/2022, and we're going to talk about all sorts of things, but I've also got the Holler Neighbors on. I went on to the Telegram, not the MeWe group today, and said, hey guys, I could use some more questions, and different people put questions in. So I have those collected. And of course, I starred the questions that happened during the Homestead Happenings update, and I have those set aside. If you're watching the live stream and another question comes up, feel free to ask. But I want to highlight that Holler neighbor Jenny is here. I just can't hear her yet. Or maybe anybody, my sound is not on. So my sound is now on, and I hopefully can hear people. Jenny, do you want to say hello? Not hearing her. Can I hear anybody?
How about me?
Hi, Jen.
Okay, we can hear
Okay.
everybody but Jenny. She's gonna log out and log back in. So cool. We got our missing holler neighbor back on for this show. Hopefully she has the ability to join back in. She was coming to us from her car, so it may just be a connectivity issue. And through her phone, StreamYard doesn't work great. So I'm gonna go once around the horn. What interesting thoughts have occurred to you about holler neighborism and or living on a homestead this week? And I will start with Tactical Redneck and then go to Steve, and then hopefully Jenny will come back in and we'll get to say hi to her.
Interesting thoughts. It never goes the way you're expecting it to go. I have a very common expression around here. You never know what you're actually going to do until you try to dig the hole. And that seems to be the story of the week with everything.
The story of the week is you never know what you're going to hit until you start digging the hole, and that is the story of the holler. Steve, your turn.
Not much happening around here. You know, we this morning before the chickens came out of their coop, we moved all the fencing, so gave them some fresh grass instead of the mud puddle that they've kind of been in last couple of weeks. You know, the piggies, we thought they were having some fun the other night because they were making a lot of noise, but as soon as I shined the light, they kind of stopped. So I'm not sure if we have piggies in the future or not.
Did you witness
yeah,
the proper gender being on top of the
Tracy.
other one? Hi, Tracy. Were they in the proper position? Because
no,
usually she mounts him, and then that's not right. No.
They were. It was really dark, and they were making a lot of really bizarre noises. And so we shined the flashlight over there, but yeah, we really couldn't see that much of anything.
Okay. And Tracy, any realizations about being on a homestead this year? Can she not hear me yet?
Oh wait, what? No, I just put my earplug in. What?
Oh, we're sharing one thing from this week that we've learned about holler living.
Oh,
and then looks like Jenny rain. Might be back in, so we'll try her next.
Way too much rain.
Way too much rain.
Too much rain for me.
Now they know what 6 inches of rain look like in one day.
Way too much rain.
Jenny, can we hear you now? We cannot hear Jenny. Boo. Yeah.
She's spinning.
Oh, she's spinning, so she's having connectivity issues.
Yeah.
At some point, she's just going to be like, I'm an interrupting cow. No. If I don't want to call her a cow because that sounds mean, but that's like the phrase.
Right.
It has nothing to do with Jenny, guys. So hopefully she'll speak when she can speak, and that'll be cool. Okay. So I'm going to take one from the live audience first. And K-Bonk says, red sorrel, can that be used in borscht? So borscht is a puree made from beets with broth and onions and garlic and salt and any other spices you want. And it's like it turns into sort of like a bisque stew. I love it. You can serve it with sour cream on top. The red sorrel, I haven't played with the roots, so I don't know the answer to that question. I've never made borscht out of beet greens. I've only made them out of the beet bulbs. And when I eat red sorrel, I eat it from the leaves. So I've never eaten the root. I'm sure you could eat the root. And the only question is, can you get it soft enough to puree? So I don't know. It's worth experimenting with, though. So I think you should do that, K-Bonk. I think you should do that. Anybody else have thoughts on that or no?
Never heard of borscht and never tried red sorrel.
Okay, well, red sorrel is a very lemony little thing. It totally is. Okay, the next question comes from MeWe. I put out on MeWe that I didn't have enough questions for today's show. And it comes from Jenny, and it's advice on being patient for the big picture when you want to see movement on your goals. And this kind of goes back to something a lot of us in the network do, and I probably should do another show on creating your life strategic plan where you have one big picture goal that you're going for, or like place you want to go. And when you start down that path, it can be really frustrating because you feel like you're putting a lot of effort in and you're not seeing a lot of results. And so she's asking, like, how do I feel better about that? And she's doing this in her life. Like, she moved to Oklahoma and is putting together a life she wants to live. But I think she's like 4 or 5 months in now, and like, WTAF, like, why am I not there yet? It's frustrating. And Jenny's about to come back in. Can I hear you?
It won't let me.
It won't let you? I can hear you.
Yeah.
But she can't hear us.
Okay.
I think we're just not getting a good connection.
Let's see if I can get the connection. Can you finally hear me?
I can finally hear you.
Okay. It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also hearing an echo.
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm going to try to turn my Bluetooth on.
Okay. The problem is StreamYard doesn't work. Woo! We're about to mute you, Jenny.
Okay.
Is your Bluetooth working?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It is on.
All right, Jenny, what's up in Oklahoma? I was just talking about your question, which is advice on being patient for the big picture when you want to see movement on your goals. Maybe you should tell us the backstory of why you asked this question.
Oh my gosh, so much has changed since I've been here. Hold on a second, my kids are giving me a hard time. Hold on a second. Okay, now we're not parked in water. I don't think. Okay, so a lot of things have changed since I've been here, and I actually think I'm going to change direction in my career altogether, or rather combine the two. But the process looks so much lengthier than one might imagine. It's like a 10-year investment. So, to me, like I have some dread. Much work is going to go into it. So it's more along the line of how to just be patient while you're going through it.
I'm not sure any of us are patient while we're going through it, and I'm going to mute you because we're getting car noise. So I'm just going to mute you, or I'm going to try to mute you, or she's going to fall off anyway. It can be really frustrating when you have a long-term goal. And when I came to the Holler Homestead, I knew I wanted to do what I'm doing now, and it was 15 years ago. And I didn't have very much money. And there were a lot of reasons why I should fail. There were a lot of people telling me I would fail. And I always reminded myself what the vision for the Holler Homestead was. And that meant that I would look around me and be really frustrated. Like if I walk outside right now, I'm going to be frustrated because things are not done. But what has helped me a lot is to take pictures along the way and look back, even 2 years, the difference in the place is huge. And we are so much closer to our goals. So I think the way to stay motivated on the big picture is have that big picture there. Look at it once a week. This is where I'm going. This is why I'm going there. Do I still want to go there? Is my motivator still the same? Has something changed? And then also set smaller benchmarks along the way. So when you have the big picture change, and let's say it's a 10-year investment to change your career from Jenny's a massage therapist, and let's say what she wants to be as an investment banker. I don't know. I'm just making that one up. And in order to be an investment banker, she's got to get a different education, and that's going to take 4 years. She's got to raise capital. And then I don't understand investment banking at all as far as how to do it for let's say venture capitalists. So then you have to get the relationships in place, and then you have to raise the capital and invest in things. And then those things need to go well before you have a payoff. As a venture, I'm going to go venture capitalist instead of investment banker. And the way you can break that up is, you've got that piece. I need to learn these things. And if you get it done in 3 years, you're ahead of the game. If it's going to take 4 years, then after 4 years, okay, I know I've made that benchmark. During that time, I was already setting the foundation to make relationships with people who would be investors. And now I'm raising money for my first project. Okay, I have the relationships. That's another thing I've accomplished. Part of how I stay motivated is I have big picture goals. and then I have smaller steps along the way that I know. And the way I stay motivated is that sometimes I don't feel motivated. And that's the reality of my life. And that's the reality of anybody's life. You know, sometimes you're like, I don't want to roast the coffee today or whatever it is. And then you remember, okay, big picture goal. I need to roast the coffee to get where I'm going to go. Wow. Okay. Ooh, I had you there, Jenny, for a second because there's noise. But I also have interim smaller goals that tell me I'm going in the right direction. The other thing they tell me, if I don't reach one, or I reach one and it didn't make a difference at all when I look back at where I need to go, sometimes that means I need to adjust where I'm going to a little bit. And, you know, right now we talked about turning you from a massage therapist into a venture capitalist just because you missed that part. So it was a complete change of career for you that we made up, but it was fun.
Thank you.
So, and documenting along the way, though, especially something like a homestead you can take pictures of, or you can look back in your journal and see where you were 2 years ago and know that you've made huge changes since then. That same thing will happen as a result of what you're doing here. Then my next question related to this was from Ken, which is, oh, does anybody else want to say something on that before we move on, Holler Neighbors?
I'll throw in that, you know, for me, I've had a fairly rough year physically and mentally. And I know that I had the conversation with Nicole because it's like, it seems like it's never ending. It's one problem after the other. And so I try to stay focused on what I need to do next because it's a never ending list of projects. And then in that, I've had to like actually force myself to stop, sit down, take a look around. And I mean, just where I'm sitting right now, I can count a number of things like the stand that the rabbits are sitting on over there. That was like constant problems with that. And I think it was last January or February, I built another stand out of scrap lumber that was just something that was better than what was there, but it's going to have to get replaced. But right now it's fine. And aside from feed and water, I really haven't had to do anything with the rabbits since I built that stand. And I have to remind myself constantly of remember how bad it was and remember how bad it's not currently, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that I think that flows over into less tangible goals. You know, I have a less tangible goal at Holler Roast Coffee where I need it as systematized as possible so that we can handle more volume. And I have put a lot of concentration into that over the last year. Well, this year's Christmas rush, sales are up 25%. And I feel like we're working less. So now I have, okay, it took me a year to get there. And I didn't know I was already there. And I probably was already there at midsummer. But until it was tested with volume, I didn't know. And now I know we can handle 25%. We can easily handle another 25 to 50% right now because of the systems that were put into place. And a year ago, I would have handled it, but not as gracefully, you know? Okay. So anyway, that's the deal. Yeah, Jenny's just bouncing in and out. Looks like she's back home, so she might have better internet in a second. Okay, I'm going to take another one from online. This question is, Packrat says, Neosporin is toxic to cats. Symptoms or indigestion to my range from indigestion to anaphylaxis. Call your vet to see what would make an appropriate topical. Interesting. I have used it on cats for a long time. Hopefully that does not kill my cat. I don't know that he's ever responded negatively to it before, but I'll keep my eye on him. I'm not like smearing it on. I do have a different topical cream from Cece's wound that I could actually use though. So good advice. Sometimes we do what we do. Jenny, anybody else have anything to say on that one?
I muted my mic for a second because I'll hear everything out. I'm back on my phone finally, so maybe
Yeah.
so sketchy.
Yeah. Do you have an actual computer with a webcam?
I do. Yeah, I do, but for some reason I can't ever get it to connect to StreamYard, so I've been using
weird.
the phone.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So how are things going in Oklahoma?
Well, they're crazy. Yesterday we had a shooting near my apartment, and so that's made me and within the hour of that, some random guy came knocking on my door. So security's been on the forefront of my mind with that. I mean, I have Janice. I don't want to have to use Janice if I don't have to. But apparently this area is just really rough. So, but I mean, other than that, it's been an adventure. So we're going to keep it positive. I've learned a lot about myself through all of it. But it's forced me to think on what my bigger picture is a whole lot too. And then what I need for myself long term.
Yeah.
In relation to everything. So definitely a lot of self-discovery happening and that and the weather is just as crazy as Tennessee here. So
did you think you were getting out of it?
I was hoping for maybe not so much rain.
Yeah.
And we've actually gotten a lot. He keeps commenting on we get rain than we usually do in this area. So I'm like, great, I brought it with me.
Yeah. 30-day reviews wants to know, is this the same apartment that had the cockroach issues?
It is. It still has cockroach issues actually. And so they came and sprayed yesterday. I have all of my belongings like kitchen wise are in totes right now. So everything requires about 4 extra steps. Like there's not I just ate dinner, so I'm going to leave my plates out. It's immediately clean up and dry and goes in totes. So it makes things hard. Like I can't make ferments. That might have to rest. So like, let's say I wanted to make sourdough. That's just not going to happen because you can't leave anything on the counter. It brings everything in. I will say it's greatly improved. I've learned a lot about pest control through the process, which is helpful. And I actually started working on a book to help people who don't know what to do. Because when I moved into it, I had no idea. Because you think in your mind, you just spray it and it's fine. But when you're connected to 16 other houses, that's not how it works. If there's one apartment that's an issue, everybody's going to have the issue until that apartment's remedied. And so I started, it's basically a how to live with it sort of guide. I'm throwing in some really cool recipes in there. Just things that are quick to make that you don't have to leave out and things that are easy to clean up. So I thought that would be a fun little thing to take on too.
Yeah. My sister lived in an apartment building in DC that had cockroaches for years and it just never went away. So same thing. Every time you used a dish there, it got like cleaned and dried and put away and that was it. And nothing was ever let out and everything, even in the fridge, was in tight Tupperware because they'll get in your fridge, as you know.
I do know.
Yeah, just put a bag of cat food in there. Okay, any other comments from other Holler neighbors before I move on to the next question? Nothing. Okay. The next one comes from Ken. He wants to know, when do you make decisions to take a loss and switch to a different goal? That's actually a hard one, but it's a really important one. And it's something that I can actually give a very tangible example of here. And I'm going to start, let me think of the thing. Okay. So I bought a meat slicer for $250 on auction that supposedly worked. And I've never gotten the meat slicer to work. And I think the problem with it is that it has a safety. So it won't turn on unless the safety is engaged. And that's to keep you from cutting your fingers off. It is a commercial meat slicer, like the kind you see at the deli. And I have had this for 2 years now because I was so excited to get it, and I got rid of my other slicer, and I had it for 2 years wanting to fix it. And I handed it to Tactical to figure it out, and he didn't. And then I was like, well, bring that back up here. I'm going to YouTube it and figure it out. And it sat on my kitchen table where I cannot use my kitchen table because there's a giant freaking meat slicer on there for 2 weeks while I did not make time to watch the YouTube video on how to fix the thing. And 2 weeks in, I started searching how much it would cost to buy a stupid meat slicer of that variety. And the answer was about $300 for a smaller, it's smaller than that one, but it's adequate for my needs, more than adequate for my needs. And yeah, Fred's saying, I tried to figure it out at one point. Yep, I'm sure you did, because you were at the event where we thought we were going to use it and couldn't use it. So I started thinking about, no, I need to fix this thing because I already have $250 invested in it. And then I realized something. I have wasted 2 years of my life because I spent $250 2 years ago on something that ended up being broken, which was a bad decision. And throwing more money after that to fix it when I don't even know if I can fix it, or investing a lot of time, was not what I was going to do. Now, I could have tried to figure it out, but I already know I don't have time to figure it out. And so instead of investing time and money in fixing the broken one, which I don't know why it's broken, and it could be that the actual shaft that's supposed to turn is stripped out, and that's a pretty expensive little fix. If I fixed that, I would still have a used machine that's been put through the paces of a deli and is not in the best of shape. Or I could put $300 into a brand new one and have one that works now. So for me, what I realized with that is, yes, I had made the mistake of buying the thing, and I was trying to make up for that mistake for 2 years by fixing it. And it was not something that I had the capacity to fix at this time. And I don't know anybody in the network who had the capacity to fix it. And I was not willing to go pay a repair shop to fix it because I'd rather put the money put into the repair shop into a whole brand new thing that's more likely to last longer. And so what I'm trying to say with that is, when you know to make a decision to take a loss is when you sit back and you analyze, what have I put into this? How am I going to get out of this positively? How does what I need to put into getting out of it positively weigh against just doing something else? And in a life decision, it can be as simple as, I start Holler Roast Coffee. Holler Roast Coffee becomes successful, and I'm roasting coffee almost every day. And almost every day when I go to get up out of bed, I'm miserable because I hate roasting coffee. Now, this is not a true story. I don't hate roasting coffee. I love roasting coffee. But let's say I got where I am now after investing 5 years of all of my heart and soul into this thing, and I hated it. That's when it's time to make a decision that it's time for another goal. When you realize, when you're asking that question and you realize you hate it, you need to say, okay, obviously I need an exit plan. What's my exit plan? Your exit plan can be throw up your hands and walk away, or you could package the business for sale, right? So you can actually get some good out of it if that's the situation. If you're trying something and failing and failing and failing, I know somebody else who wanted to start a business that required that what they do is they go bid jobs, they go do jobs, and they go find jobs. And they didn't terribly much like bidding jobs, and they certainly didn't like marketing, but they liked doing jobs. And about 6 months in, they came up to me and said, I'm thinking about getting a job because I'm not making enough money in my business. And I said, well, why aren't you making enough money in your business? And we figured out it was because they were not marketing the jobs, not marketing what they could do to get the jobs, and not super excited about going bidding jobs. As a matter of fact, they just liked going to do the jobs. And I said, well, so your decision today is, do you make time and make yourself go market, or do you go get a work for the man job? And they said, okay. It came back about the next day and said, I'm going to give myself 2 months And if after 2 months I haven't been marketing jobs and getting more jobs, I am going to go get a new job. And for the next 2 months, they were like, okay, I give my permission to do this the right way. And they still found themselves unwilling to go market the jobs. And 2 months later, they got a job. And were completely happy with giving up on running their own business because they realized they would rather have somebody else do that for them, which means working for somebody. Because that somebody is doing the marketing and the bidding, or they're paying you to do the bidding. But just realized that they were not ready to be a self-motivated marketer who gets up every day and says, how can I drive more business to my business? And that's one of the pieces of small business or starting your own thing that a lot of people don't realize. I think it's more important than being able to do the thing is being able to sell the thing. And our culture is so negative about selling stuff that people almost feel dirty telling people that they're open for business and could sell, massage or, whatever. Right.
Yep.
And the deal is, in order to get customers, they have to know that you have this thing available. And if you don't ever talk about it, then they don't know. And I think selling is one of the most under supported disciplines as we are raising kids and teaching our kids to be adults. And it's one of the most important things, because if you can sell it, you can figure out how to do it in most cases. Mm-hmm. But if you spend all your time learning how to do it and how to optimize your inventory and your production facilities and no time selling, you will never need that. So that's a long tangent. Any other thoughts from y'all on the?
Yeah, I actually have some, because it goes right in line with me changing, like adding to what I'm doing. For me, it's not that I hate what I do. I absolutely love what I do. It's just that I felt like I could be doing more. And so that was part of the shift for me. It's how do I actually want to be giving back? Massage for me is like a healing practice, for example. And so for me, it was like, do I feel like I'm giving back enough? Am I doing actually what it is that I want to be doing? And so that's what started the transition for me. I do work for somebody else right now. I've also worked for myself. I don't like working for other people. Like, I just do not like it. And so I'll be still under somebody's thumb until I'm complete with what I'm going for. And then I can work for myself. And that's part of the that distress that comes with thinking about the shift too. But it was that, am I actually doing what it is that I like, or what my intention was, what I set out for in the beginning?
Yeah, you'll get there. Steve?
Gonna try.
Steve, Tracy, anything to add to that?
Yeah, as far as like trying to decide, when to throw in the towel, when to go an alternate route. I mean, that could be very difficult, whether it's on deciding on when to, fix that slicer or for life goals or just like accomplishing any task. Like, that's something I battle with a lot with at work. I'm an IT guy and I'm, working on servers, and I had this problem and I'm like, oh yeah, it'll take me 15 minutes to resolve. And like 7 hours later, I'm still at it. And knowing that I should have called support 7 hours ago, the vendor or whatever, put in a ticket or whatever. But I just got my head in and I'm like, I got to solve this. I'm so close. When do you actually try to, when do you decide to make that change? When do you decide to just give up and go, change the course? And yeah, it's very difficult. That's something I fight with all the time.
Tactical, you got anything to say on this one?
My favorite question ever. Why? Why did you start it in the first place? And why are you thinking about quitting it? Like, if it's something, this is probably a horrible example, but my four-wheeler. By the time I get done fixing my four-wheeler, I will probably have spent enough money to go buy a new four-wheeler. But
True story.
When I get done fixing this four-wheeler, I know what I have, because I will pretty much completely rebuilt the whole thing and customized it to be what I want it to be and to fit my needs. So that's why I'm continuing to invest in that specific project. I have another truck.
In case you want to know why he did not fix the meat slicer, that's why.
There was time issues there.
Yeah. Why
But I have another truck that has been in the shop for months that I'm hoping within the next week I will get back. And that's one where I've lost count of how long it's been.
9 months. It's been 9 months.
But that's one where I'm not emotionally attached to that truck. I bought it for a purpose. Right now, it's not serving that purpose because it's not here. And so when I do get that vehicle back, I'm going to make the decision as to whether I sell it and get something else or whether I keep it and continue to improve the truck. So, I mean, to me, it's just a question of why. Why did you get this thing to start with, and why are you thinking about not continuing to do it?
Fair enough. Okay, the next question comes from K-Bonk, and it's cauliflower. Luckily, I know why he wrote cauliflower. You know what makes a really good substitute for mashed potatoes and shepherd's pie? Cauliflower. So if you listened to yesterday's show and you heard me talk about shepherd's pie and I was talking about how to make it lower carb and I'm like, just use less potato. Yeah, also you could use mashed cauliflower or call rice instead of the potato layer. Anyway, I just thought it was funny because it just said cauliflower. And if I hadn't seen where he put that, I wouldn't have known. So, Jenny, we ever going to write our low carb cookbook?
Yeah, well, so all of the ones that I'm working on right now for what I'm working on they're all low carb or carnivore recipes. Yeah. So yeah, but we definitely have to collaborate on one too.
I just found the Mississippi pot roast, one of those things in my freezer. That's what I should put with the venison. Is that? Ooh,
that's exactly what you should put on the venison.
I'm going to do it. I mean, I know exactly where it is. I was like, there's still one of these in here. We used to do these crock pot meal days where all the Holler neighbors got together and made crock pot meals, and then we put them in everybody's freezer, and somehow they all ended up back in my freezer. So occasionally I'll find a packet of things that we can just throw in the crock pot with meat. So yeah, we could do that again, Holler neighbors, if you want. It's just been a while. I was like, wow, these Mississippi pot roast ones really lasted a long time. But
Tracy's
I know
actually making that for us this Sunday.
Yeah, I think I'm making it for us for tomorrow because I just realized I have it. That's really funny. It is delicious, though. It is totally delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. The next question is Pack Rat from online. Sing on all your videos, maybe. That comes after my rant about the stupid video that got 2,000 views that has zero substance and is crappily shot and on its side instead of the right way. And I did sing on that one, but I sing on other videos. They don't get that kind of traction. It was a funny thing with a YouTube short. The one on Facebook only got 400 views.
I think that's a cultural thing that's happening too. Because if you think of like TikTok and Reels and things that come up on Facebook, like people don't want to spend a long time investing in watching something, and unless it's a skill, but they still want like the quick fix. It's that instant gratification culture.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Ironically, my brain is wired differently than most people. So when ads pop up on YouTube, the one that infuriates me the most is TikTok ads.
Oh, okay. Any other comments on that?
I've found some really good stuff on TikTok, actually. So
yeah,
I finally caved and joined that cult. And
are we following each other?
I don't know. I have no, I don't think so. I haven't put any videos up or anything yet,
Okay.
but I'm in a process of discovery with it. So
Same. I mean, I'm on there now and I'm posting semi-regularly. And the one that got the most interaction on TikTok, which is different than the YouTube short that went 2,000, I put a video up asking who benefits from nuclear war. And I got a boat ton of comments on TikTok on that one, and less on Facebook. And then I answered them all this morning, and then I got another round of boat tons of answers on that one. So that was an interesting one. I've been really diving into a lot of different social outreach tools, because one of the goals of the podcast next year is to grow exponentially. In order to do that, marketing and promotions need to be more developed. And so what I have noticed in the last 2 months is so I was kind of playing around with Facebook Reels and nothing major happened. All of a sudden, those are getting the most traction for me. And 2 months from now, it'll be something else. TikTok will go through a thing. And so what I'm finding is, even though I don't even like these tech giants, a lot of them, there's a rotating little thing that happens where one thing's better than the other. And if I'm sort of have a presence on all of them, I can see it pop and then run in over there. And that's how I'm getting more outreach done. So that's just something I'm saying it out loud, because there are enough content creators who listen here right now. Facebook Reels are where it's at. And then apparently you can get 2,000 views on a stupid YouTube video that's crappily shot and aligned wrong if you just sing a 10-second song. So take that information for what you will. I did already have a channel established with thousands of followers before that happened, though. But I think the reason that one went is they highlighted it on YouTube Reels for like 5 minutes. And when you have a short video, that's the other thing. The number sounds impressive, but people have seen it 3 times before they realize they can turn it off because it's only 10 seconds long. So I think that inflates those numbers on the short videos, because it just keeps cycling back through. Same thing on Facebook. It cycles back through if you don't move on to the next thing. So Packrat says, I'm with you, Tactical. FBI Chief Christopher Wray says TikTok, national security concern. I'm less worried about national security by me using TikTok, but I hear you. Some people are very concerned about that. Okay, this one comes from Nathan, and it's, how do you prioritize your task list, filling in the available time with forward progress and achievables when things like shortness of available time segments, supply chain issues, weather, missing piece of the puzzle might otherwise leave one in a frozen paralysis analysis state? What helps you realize that which might have temporarily sidelined does not necessarily grind you to a halt on every bit of your life simultaneously, unless you decide to stop your progress? So I thought it's a lot of detail. I think the question is really, when you have a big picture goal and you have a list of things you need to do through that goal, and you get sidelined on like 3 out of 5 of them, how do you prioritize the other 2 and then remember to go back to the ones based on what happens and not just get completely thrown off your game? Who wants to answer that?
I'll take that one.
We're laughing at you, Tactical.
I'm sure, because you see what I go through around here. And it's, for me, okay, first question is it on fire? Is something going to die? Is something going to explode? If not, it's capable of being pushed to the back burner. And then if I don't have anything that falls into the it has to get done right now category, one of the things that I take into consideration is, well, just for an example, right now, it's not freezing temperatures, but it's about to be. So out of the list of stuff that I want to do, one of the things that, if I can figure out how to do it, is moving the cast iron bathtub in the goat pasture closer to the front, because that's what we use for their water. That way I can actually drop a stock tank heater in there in such a way that the goats don't try to eat the extension cord. So,
and they will.
Yes, I know, because they've done it. But that's something that, for me, is on like the sub priority list because it's not immediate, but it's about to be. And then if I don't have anything in that category, then I can start looking at, okay, what projects do I have that are ongoing, like the perimeter fence, and what can I make progress on? So right now I've got a couple of cedar posts pulled out that when I have extra time, I'm going to start getting those prepped to be able to drop those in and finish a section of the perimeter fence. So that's what I'm thinking about it. That's kind of what's going through my head.
Okay.
I think the other thing too is on a task list, everything shouldn't be reliant on the other thing. Because we have so many different areas of our life. Like if you're making a task list for the day, you don't want to put yourself in a position to have to freeze. So like I have an outside job. I am a student. I'm a single parent. Like, and these aren't necessarily things on my to-do list, but obviously if I'm not at work, I'm doing schoolwork. Like if I'm at work, it stops me from doing schoolwork, but my schoolwork doesn't stop me from going to work. So I know just by that, I think when you're making your task list, just don't make them so reliant on each other.
Yep, that makes sense. Steve and Tracy, anything to add? Oh, he's muted.
Yeah, we were having some audio difficulties. Our AirPods been like cutting out, so we didn't hear much.
Okay. The question is, how do you balance different priorities when you run into bottlenecks?
I'll let you take that one, Tracy.
Do what you can. That's it.
Do what you can. That's it.
There's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very tangibly, I have a journal that's not right here. It's actually in the other room where I write what has to be done today on one page. And I write like my longer term things that I know need to be done, big picture for the month. And I will rewrite that big picture list several times as I turn pages. And I mark things off the list. And when I run into something I can't do, I don't actually put them in priority order. I just look through it. I'm like, that's the next most important one. I also use the My 3 Things thing and highlight the 3 that have to get done per day. Once they're done and I'm doing additional things on the list, if something has come up the next day that puts it off, the next day I rewrite that thing. And if I've had to rewrite that thing 3 or 4 times, I move it over to the longer list because obviously there's a bigger problem going there, or I realize I'm never going to do it and I take it off the list. And in that way, I run a lot less into analysis paralysis. I also take walks every day, pretty much, not quite, but just about every day. And during that time, I'm not usually listening to a podcast or anything. I'm just walking. And those things that are bottlenecked for a reason. And it could be because I can't, like, I ran out of coffee labels on Monday for my bags of coffee, which is kind of a big problem right now. And the reason I ran out was entirely my fault. And so I felt guilty about it because Michelle told me to order them a month before and I just didn't write it down. And so it fell off. Like, really important thing to reorder labels for coffee. And I went for a walk and I'm like, what can I do? Like, I can print labels. I can send bags out without labels. That would look funny. I can, I came home and looked for my labels that I used when I first started the business that went through a laser printer. They were gone because I got rid of them in a declutter, like all of these things. Bad prepper, Nicole. And finally, and mom knew it was happening too. I realized, okay, I have these red square labels that will fit on a bag that are not as pretty as my labels, but they are labels. And they are professional looking. And since Monday, I've been using these labels. Meanwhile, put mom on the phone with the printer saying, well, we screwed up. How fast can you get us our labels? And the labels arrived today. So what could have been a bottleneck to halt all coffee production on one of the busiest weeks of the year needed a walk to find the ultimate solution. And never underestimate the importance of getting away from it and doing something physical. I think it's like that physical movement that gets your brain like shook out of the track that it's stuck on, and it can actually clear some of those bottlenecks. So, Nathan, hopefully that helps you. I have one more question from the audience, and then we're going to go once around the horn. Justin says, now with so many animals, Justin from 30 Day Reviews. If you haven't followed his YouTube channel, go to 30 Day Reviews on YouTube and follow Justin. He's always totally helping out my channel, and I appreciate it. And he does reviews of things that he has used for, wait for it, 30 days. Lots of beard oils and stuff like that. Okay. Now with so many animals, what's your favorite that has been on the homestead? Okay, so Stephen Tracy, what's your favorite homestead animal?
The chickens, obviously.
The chickens? Why?
Yeah. Why are they your favorite, Tracy?
They're my babies.
They're her babies, and we love them.
Yeah. My egg layers. They're the egg layers.
I thought they were going to say pigs, but everybody likes Lady Pig.
Lady Pig's great.
Yeah.
They are.
Lady
Awesome.
Pig's looking for a new home. Jenny, what's your favorite animal that you've interacted with?
I really enjoyed when the sheep came. I would say that the sheep are probably my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. Tactical, your favorite animal and why?
I don't know. Mine's a toss-up between the pigs and the sheep, and part of that for me is just because it's kind of a requirement. I've had to spend a lot more time with them than I have with any of the other animals, so you get a little bit of a relationship built up there.
Right now, mine are the sheep. Out of all the animals I've tried, I like them the best because I feel the most confident in interacting with them. The pigs are big. Now, the pigs grow out and provide meat a lot faster than the sheep, although the sheep are faster than cows. And I like that part of it, but they're big. They're like, I think I would have the same issue with cattle. They're big. And if a cow wants to go somewhere, a cow goes somewhere. And if you're in the way, the cow cares not that you're in the way. So you have to, like horses, you have to like head trip them into believing that you have authority, right? Pigs are harder to head trip. At the same time, the pigs are fairly nice. So I don't know. I would say sheep too. So anyway, guys, let's go once around the horn before we sign off. Share whatever you want to share. We'll start with you, Steve. Go to Tactical, Jenny, and I'll wrap it up.
Tracy? Yeah, I mean, not much going here. We're very excited for the the upcoming holiday season. I think this weekend we're gonna take it easy and maybe do a little gun shooting. So we'll warn you guys ahead of time.
So we don't come running.
Right.
That has happened once since you were here. Cool.
Finish our Christmas shopping and then wait for the kids to get here again.
Right.
That's waiting for that.
Let's go.
Oh, sorry. I'm here.
Tactical. He doesn't know how to unmute efficiently. Okay, Jenny, go, because Tactical does not know I called on him.
Okay. So just, we're just keeping busy here, but I wanted to remind everybody to pick your word of the year because there's not very many days left of it.
Did you pick your word?
I did. I actually revealed it online today. So
you want to tell us audioly what it is?
Stability is my word this year.
I think it's a really good word for you, Jenny.
Yeah, me too.
I love it. Okay, so the word of the year is a word you focus on. We talked about that a few episodes ago, and I linked back to the original episodes about that. I am going to call on Tactical to say one last thing before we sign off.
Yeah, I was sitting there hitting the button over and over again, and it wouldn't unmute. I totally had something I was going to say, and I lost it now. So
how's your short-term memory doing there, Tactical?
Great.
So that's it. Okay, that's Tactical's contribution. Before we sign off, I do want to tell Pack Rat, so far we've played a lot of different kinds of Uno and Cards Against Humanity. I'm not sure we have a favorite game in the Holler yet, but we will try some other games, I'm sure, at our next game night. and I need to figure out what happened to all my board games because I'm missing some, or I might go get my hands on some. I'd like to play Upwards with those two, but not everybody wants to play Upwards. We might have to do that this week. Well, I don't have time this weekend because I have a concert.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a fun little Q&A. It hit everything from homesteading to a lot of life goal questions. And I will be doing an episode about my word of the year before we go into Christmas. It will probably be right before we go into Christmas. Jenny was hitting me up today on the side saying, what's your word of the year? And the truth is, I don't know yet. I've put a lot of time thinking, but I have not made my final decision. I have a feeling I know where I'm going, but I'm not 100% sure. I am getting there, and I've had a lot of discussions. The way I'm doing it, I write things in the journal. I'm looking at, what I learned from the year, my word this year, which I'm done with already. And I know conceptually what I want to see change next year, but I haven't really locked on if I want it to be what I want to change or the thing I think that needs to happen for it to change. Like there's this, I go back and forth. And I've been talking with a lot of my personal advisors as well. I had a long phone call with one last night. The person who asks me the hardest questions, that's the best person to talk to at that point about business and also personal choices that I'm making. And those two things for me are not separate because my business and my life are kind of the same thing in a lot of ways. So it takes some work, guys, but you can really make quick differences in your life by aligning around the word of the year. So I highly encourage you to think about doing that. I will do a catch-up segment sometime next week on life strategic plan, my 3 things, because we have a lot of questions on productivity and setting goals. And I think it's time to have that talk again. Thanks for joining our variety show today. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.